Hello, Megan.
Hello, Michelle.
Welcome to the Spicy Brain podcast. Where we are navigating neurodiversity with curiosity, joy, and
radical acceptance. High kick.
So welcome to anyone who's new. We're so happy you're joining us. And we've had some new people coming along the last couple of weeks, which has been really exciting. And for those of you OG people, the Tarans, right?
The Leticias.
Yes. The Cheryls.
The Jenzas.
The awesomenesses of all of you.
The
We appreciate you too.
Uribes.
We love you guys. And we are really going through and generally picking a book, right? And we kind of dissect the book. And that's just because I'm a nerd and I have to have structure. And Megan allows me to do that. So thank you so much. And then we try to dig in to that brain of hers or mine. I've learned so much more about my own spiciness. And again, we talk about everything like ADHD, but we're also talking about sensitivities now. Like we're kind of building. But right now we're really focusing in on parenting, and it's the essential guide to raising complex kids. And I liked this book when we picked it because it was really about parenting kids, but also you sort of brought the perspective of parenting your inner child.
Yeah.
And I liked
parents
that.
are just, for anyone who's first time they're listening, parents are just teaching us how to become adults. So when we think about like what we're doing as parents and helping our children to grow, we're just teaching them how they're going to help themselves when they get older. That's basic fundamental of it all. And so like when people say like, ugh, adulting, which is what I feel like all the time, it's because I'm trying to learn how to parent myself. And this has been really nice to kind of help me shift the framework and the thought process of how I parent myself.
And I liked the idea too that complex kids could be brain-based or metabolic-based because she talked about, that things are just harder, if you've got some sort of brain-based disorder that is not going to change right into adulthood. This is something you're going to deal with the rest of your life. And it could be anything from anxiety to autism to ADHD. There was, she had a whole laundry list of things. And then the metabolic one I really identified with, because of the gluten issues I have with celiacs and dairy and all of that. And then, a lot of friends who've had kids with diabetes and type 1 diabetes specifically. And so I think when you're thinking about these things, it just makes parenting even more complex, even though it's a hard job regardless.
If it wasn't complex enough.
Right. You add these other factors and it can be really isolating as well, because oftentimes, and we'll talk a little bit more about this today, but this idea that when you have complex issues, it often means that there's some part of our kids that have a little bit of delay in development in certain aspects potentially. They might be ahead in other aspects, but that there's some aspects they might be delayed by several years. They say like 3 to 5 years sometimes. And so that can really be hard when you're, as a parent, trying to, doctors and teachers and everybody wants you to keep your kid on this track that all the other kids are on, supposedly. And you're feeling like your kid might be behind. And so I think there's a lot there that can be really stressful as a parent as well. And awesome because you have an awesome kid. So with all the things we're going to talk about today, I want to go back to this chapter on why can't they just? Okay. And we sometimes these chapters take us like 5 episodes because we get in the weeds.
We do.
I don't, they help me.
They help me too.
Yeah. I think the last episode was pretty, it was insightful for you. I think you said multiple times that you felt like as you actually listened to it back this time in a real way.
Yeah. Because like when we first started doing this podcast, I would listen to everything and make sure it all sounded good. And then like once we kind of got into a rhythm and I knew like, oh, I've got our recording stuff down. Like I sort of just listened to stuff, but I kind of, we've also gotten better. So there's not as many spaces in between the time and all that. So I haven't needed to listen to it all the way through because I remember what it was about. But this last one, I started listening to it and then it just put me right back into the day. Right. And I was just like, and I was kind of still in that space a bit. And so I started listening to it again and like, I'm like I found myself tearing up again all over again. Like I just was, going through the whole process, and it really helped because like it's just a constant challenge. Like living in an other body is a constant challenge. And if I'm building this foundation for myself that I know that mom wanted me to have, but we didn't have the language back in the day to actually build the proper foundation. But I'm finding that like it takes me, I have to keep reminding myself like I'm okay. It's fine. Is this naughty or neurological? It's like, no, this is just neurological. This is what I go through. And like, I'm like, I need to tell Phyllis to fuck off.
So Phyllis is, for those of you who are just joining, we used to have a drill sergeant.
Sorry if your name is Phyllis.
Yeah, we love Phyllis.
Sorry if your name is Phyllis.
Mostly, but yeah, just not hers. But you used to have a drill sergeant.
Yeah.
In your mind that screamed at you.
Yep.
And then last episode, you realized it had transitioned.
Yes, it had transitioned from a drill sergeant into the HOA. And
like an HOA, like in
knows,
your
yeah. Like anyone who's had a home, like the HOA that you're talking about, the like the crazy neighbor who's always keeping track of is your lawn, 2 inches or 3 inches high. It's that person.
The homeowners associations that I have been involved with are no joke. Like no joke. And so it's so funny.
They don't play around.
That. No,
they don't play.
But they're also very nice about it.
Yes.
Kind of like to your face, but then they like stab you behind the back. Right. So I feel like Phyllis, your Phyllis is a little like this, right?
Yeah. She's not like full blown being the way it used to be. Like the drill sergeant used to be like, Megan, why the can't you just figure it out? What's wrong with you? Get your ass off the couch. You're just a complete and total idiot. Like you're like just so mean. And then now it's like criticism laced with kindness. Like, well, Megan, you know that there are so many other people out in the world who are doing far more than you are. So if you could just get off the couch and get your work done, maybe you wouldn't feel like so much of a loser. If you could just stop being that way, like maybe you would just, be awesome, but you're not, because you're just sitting here on the couch working on a puzzle. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
It must be hard. It must be really hard to be this way, isn't it? Oh.
So you have now told Phyllis, and you're working on telling Phyllis, and that's like the foundation you're talking about, is like this foundation of kindness to yourself, or
so that like that Phyllis can't even get in, right? Like, because like when you're secure with yourself, I imagine when one is secure with themselves, that you can hear. No, okay, I know exactly what I'm talking about, because I am a master in theater, in acting. Okay, that is something that I actually can say I am very good at. When I was first starting acting, and I was not confident, a teacher, my first year teacher, could come and say to me like, well, Megan, I'm not sure if this is going to be good for you, because like it seems like your body is constantly moving out of control, and this might not be good for you. And she got in my head and like made me think like maybe I can't do this. But then by my third year, when I'm like, you can't tell me what. I told, like Ron Liebman didn't even remember who he cast in this part, because I disappeared that much. Like, and I had confidence. I did not need someone to validate me anymore. And if someone gave me a hard time, it was like, well, yeah, that's your opinion, but I know I was awesome, because like I'm really good at this thing. So I feel that like maybe at some point I will have this foundation of confidence and security that like if I'm sitting in my couch, like sitting on my couch, working on a puzzle, that I will have like, and Phyllis might pop in and be like, Megan, you really should be. And I'm like, you know what? No, I shouldn't be, because like I did all this work the other few days, and like I need to take a break, because my brain, this is what it needs.
Yeah.
And I feel myself starting to do that, like with my image and like my body. because, you know, I've been so hard, like for, you know, any of you who don't know, I'm a recovering from an eating disorder, and I got to be very heavy at one point, and I've been losing weight slowly, but like I kept myself at a certain weight because I needed to learn how to like love my body in that weight. And I would find myself like in the middle of looking, and I would force myself to like look in the mirror fully naked without like my clothes on, and like see all of the rolls and see all of like, you know, the stuff on my body, and like, and instead of saying like ew, it was more of like good job. Like I started like just like hugging my fat, and I was like, thank you for taking care of me, and thank you for protecting me and keeping me alive, and then like forcing myself to have that conversation of like, oh, Megan, you're not attractive. And it's like, no, I'm a very attractive person. Like the size of my body has nothing to do with my worth, has nothing to do with who I am. And like, and my capabilities. And like, I forced myself to live in that for like over a year before I really, you know, took the next step of like trying to lose the weight. Cause I knew if I lost the weight, it wouldn't have mattered. Right. And I feel like that's what we're doing with my brain. It's like, I feel like at some point I'm going to get to that point where, you know, understanding my brain and how it works is the first step. And then slowly shifting my language is like the next step. And then finally, I would think that acceptance is really where, oh my gosh, Michelle, this is it. It's curiosity, joy, and radical acceptance.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Wait, think about it, right? So the first, Michelle, oh my God, this is just, the first step is curiosity. Holy shit. Oh my God. Okay. And then it's like being curious with my brain and understanding my brain. That was the first thing. Yeah. Then providing some joy and like shifting my words to be less negative to more positive, which is the joy aspect, which then leads to the radical acceptance.
Dang. High kick.
High kick. Yes. We're so awesome. We didn't even know it, Michelle.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay, so I love this, but you said you had a good story.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I just like went on. Yes,
you did, but you had a good story, and then we'll talk a little bit about the chapter because I think it actually applies to this as well. So we're all
good. Last week was really tough. And so if you hadn't heard, like I was in a really rough place. And so I wanted to talk about it. But I wanted to give an update because I have been like working on some, trying some different things and like trying to like get off my phone. That's been really seeming to help a lot. And like last night we went to bed at like maybe 3:00 in the morning. You know, wow. Like we were working. We were doing stuff, and I've been productive, you guys. Like, wow, full on productive.
I know. I saw you have like new things hung up in your house, and you're sending me pictures, and
I know
it's been great. Yeah.
But like the thing is, like I've been productive, but I've also been taking breaks, which is a new thing for me. It's like I'm not just like, Megan, you have to be productive or nothing else. It's like, no, I'm productive for a while, and then I take like an hour break, and then I'm productive for a little bit longer. It's like I'm almost doing a Pomodoro technique without even realizing I'm doing it. And so what's been really cool with it, like last night we went to bed for 3 hours. I knew I had to wake up at 10 because I was recording with some other people. And so I must have only gotten like 7 hours of sleep. I woke up. I felt great.
Huh.
Like, I don't know if it's the lack of screens or the more, I don't know what's contributing to it, but like, this is the first time in probably 6 months maybe that I've gone to bed, woken up, and actually feel like rested.
Wow. That's amazing.
Like I know. There's still a part of me that's a little tired today because I probably didn't get enough sleep, but I feel like the sleep I got was very, very good.
Nice.
And I just wanted to say, it's like, I want to say this to future Megan. Like, I need to clip this for myself. Okay, future Megan. Yes. I know you're feeling like shit today. And I know it feels like life is just lifing and it's never going to get better. And I am here to tell you, future Megan, that you just need to work through it. Because when you work through it and you don't and you don't run away from it, you will feel better, and it will get better. You just have to trust in yourself.
And today is evidence of that, because you feel better.
I am
today.
evidence of that. Future Megan.
Future Megan.
I will be there.
And I think
on the other
anyone
side.
who deals with insomnia and sleep issues that's listening understands, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's awful when you can't sleep. It's
yeah,
awful.
you just spiral.
You spiral.
Just spiral.
100%. So, it's interesting. I think when you're like taking aim, it sounds like you were sort of taking aim at this issue in this self-parenting mode, right? But like those of us who are parenting children that we have to do this with, it's the same idea of like, I'm going to take aim at something specific. And this is what she kind of talks about in this chapter, is the second piece of it being curiosity. Like, once you're going to take aim to try to adjust something or make it, some issue you're going to work on. And it sounds like for you, part of it was like productivity that ended up helping with sleep, maybe. Right. But but you were looking at your productivity and like trying to figure out how to get more things done that you wanted to get done and do less of the things that you felt like were keeping you from that.
Yeah. Cause like I even told Brian, I was like, dude, I don't know. I'm tired. Like, cause I actually did stuff, and my body is physically tired cause it was working and I felt accomplished not leaving the bed, like lying, like getting into bed, like leaving, the state of work and like getting into bed. I felt accomplished. Like I had done something with my day. Mm-hmm. Which, even though I've been doing like all that work I did while we were packing and all that, I couldn't see all the work that I was doing was amazing. And so I didn't feel accomplished. And I do think that's something I have to work through, is that I have to figure out, how do I allow myself to see that what's happening is a good thing. Like, what I am doing is an accomplishment.
Mm-hmm. That idea of like being positive and being able to stay positive, I think, is something that, especially like she talks about in this chapter of Why Can't They Just, is actually one of the big problems for people who have complex issues, because, and she describes it as, complex kids are constantly losing, dropping, forgetting things, and getting corrected from morning until night.
Oh, wait, that's so true.
Right? And so it's like, if you're constantly, like, whether it's your Phyllis constantly correcting you now, or a parent because you're having to get them, or a teacher because they're not doing something, or a friend, or it's like there's always in a state, especially I think with kids who have neurological disorders, not just, I mean, it could probably also be for metabolic, but I think specifically for neurological disorders is something that's really tough. So one of the things she talks about is when you're taking aim at a behavior. So for example, your productivity issue, right? You took aim at that and you had to be curious about it. And she said there's kind of three things when you're being curious to help yourself or help your kid kind of move on and be successful, to make a plan. Because you said actually, like, the plan or the strategy isn't the end goal. The strategy and the planning and all of that of trying to change this behavior is just about being able to be self-regulated, self-motivated, self-managing, and achieving personal success. Like, the goal is that, right? The mechanism you get there with is however you get there. But you might need to change that. It might not work. You might try something. It doesn't work. It does for a while, whatever. But the goal is so that you're self-regulating and that you can get through your day and do the things that you want to be able to do. And so one of the things she said, though, is that there's sort of these three things that in order for it to be successful, you need to be activating the brain in the right way. meaning whatever that is for somebody, whether it's meditation or it's medication or it's, exercise or it's eating in ways that helps, your brain function better. Right. And you can really think about this. Like if you have a gluten allergy or gluten intolerance, you're celiacs, and you're not being fueled correctly, then you don't have the right amount of energy and the right amount of chemicals going into your brain to be able to do the work you need to do, or maybe regulate the behaviors you have or whatever. So whether it's a neurological issue or it's a metabolic issue, if you're not fueling your brain and activating your brain correctly, then no matter what plan you have, it's probably not going to work. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. So like you always talk about like a little protein break or breaks, brain breaks. We talk about them a lot. So that idea of really making sure the health of your brain is at its optimal when you're trying to create whatever system or structure. So in terms of any plan, again, our brains being their most healthy is got to be part of it. And then this idea of positivity, which you were just talking about, it's so hard, right? Because if you're constantly losing things and forgetting things and being corrected all the time, then you could internalize that a lot of ways. And I think a lot of kids, she talks later in the chapter about internalizing that as shame, right? That I'm being naughty, it's not neurological, it's naughty. And so this idea of how important the relationship is. And it makes sense that like Phyllis's relationship with you needs to be better, or maybe a different person, not Phyllis altogether. But like for me, when I think with Josh, and Josh is my 19-year-old, and he's given me permission to talk about him, thank goodness. But that relationship and really figuring out how to foster the positivity, right? Yeah. And figuring out what is achievable for him, so that I can continue to focus on what he does well, as opposed to, and making a plan based in that. Like, I'm going to pick your strengths to make our plan around, as opposed to the things that might be the hardest for you, for example.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is sort of shifting expectations. So the brain, positivity, and then shifting our expectations. And she's really clear on this, that it's not that you don't have high expectations for your kids. Like, you should still have high expectations, but you need to make sure you understand that most kids who have complex issues are like 3 to 5 years behind their peers in some aspects of their development. Not all necessarily. Like, they might be ahead in other aspects, but it tends to be that's true with most people with complex issues, she said. And I thought that was interesting, because I think you would expect something different from a 7th grader than you would from like a 10th grader.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that idea of, if you're parenting your inner child, that maybe you need to also understand that as well. Like, okay, so everybody around me is getting married. Everybody's doing this. Everybody's doing that. And maybe I just need a little bit more time with that because of the things that I deal with in my brain. So I kind of wanted to talk to you about that, because I feel like you've sort of are trying to create a system for yourself right now. I mean, I didn't know that you were doing that. So it's so cool, because not just because it maps onto the chapter we're doing, but I'm just going to say it's pretty timely. So, when you think about that, like when you think about what you need for your brain to be successful with what you're trying right now, like what are the things that might come to mind for you?
Well, first off, I want to backtrack real quickly to the idea of like what she was saying about feeling like you need to be positive with the brain, because like we're like sponges basically, and then we take it all in, and we're being corrected all day, every day. And it's so true. Like, you said that, and I just was like, oh yeah. Like, little Rosey was totally corrected every day, all day. Yeah. And it, like, no wonder the drill sergeant came about, because she was tired. Like, little Rosey was tired of being corrected all day long. And
you don't want to disappoint people. Right?
Yeah, because like we talked about last week,
so you might create a louder noise than somebody else to get you to do it before you get actually told in real time.
Because I don't want to inherently be naughty. Like, that's not what my goal is. And I don't have the thing that is required to make it so that I'm not naughty, in big giant air quotes. So
it's neurological.
It's neurological. So you're right. Like I totally would do this stuff. I would do these things and I would like beat myself up first so that I would remember. Or at least attempt to remember, or at least, you know, beat myself up enough that I would then, it'd be me saying the worst thing to myself and not somebody else. I could at least
have control of it. Yeah. That's interesting. I'm reminded of, as you're saying that, I think that's true with a lot of abusers, right? Like sometimes people will instigate the fight with the abusive person just to get it over with so they can control it. So that makes sense to me that, you know, you might in a way like kind of just self-inflict it first. So you know it's coming. You're not getting sucker punched, so to speak. It's not out of
control
nowhere.
When it happens. That makes sense.
You control when it happens. Yeah. I wonder too, though, like you do things, I think, for yourself in terms of nowadays of keeping your brain as activated. Like you do take medication. You try to take that at a regular time, I think, each day. You do work on your sleep quite a lot. You've definitely worked on making sure you have a more balanced set of things to nourish you. You know, you do, and all you do walk more like, outside. Like you do get out to the ocean more, right? Like all those things I think help you.
Yeah. And like as I'm thinking about it, all those things are very slow and one at a time. And I think she talked about this, right? You take one task at a time. You pick one task at a time.
You aim at one thing.
One thing.
But part of the aiming at it is like making sure your brain is in a good state to be able to aim at it, right? So that could be like multiple things you're aiming at the beginning are just for the brain.
Or, you know, like, I think about the shame spiral, area, like where I might have shame at thinking like, okay, this is the thing that needs to get done. But in order for like this one thing to get done, I have to really focus on other stuff first. Like Michelle, I was just talking to this girl named Whitty and this guy, Alex. We were just having this discussion, about like mental health. And their question was to me, like, you know, what's the one thing that you think that people talk about? Like don't talk about in therapy enough. And I was like, just how slow it is and how slow it takes to
they don't talk about therapy, like it being honest about how long it takes.
How long it takes. Yeah. How long it's going to take for you to like to get through healing yourself, right? Like they don't talk, like people don't talk about just how long it's going to take for you to like make a change. Right. Because I think it's this thing you're talking about right here is that you have to take aim at one thing at a time. So for me, you know, we've moved to Monterey almost 3 years ago. And I knew that like my sleep was the worst. Like if I didn't have good sleep, I wasn't going to be able to figure out how to change my diet. I wasn't going to be able to figure out how to get a job. I wasn't going to be able to do anything else because sleep was the most important thing at that moment. And so getting my sleep relatively under control, you know, that took a year of just constant trying and failing and, you know, trying not to beat myself up, but totally beating myself up, you know, and it was just a continuous thing. And it's like, you don't fix your sleep overnight. Like once you're in a sleep deficit, I did a lot of research on this too. Like they say like once you're in a sleep deficit, it can take months, if not years to get out of that sleep deficit because your body is just so starved for it. So the fact that like I'm kind of just now starting to get good sleep 3 years later is wild. I mean, I can at least go to sleep, which before I couldn't. I was so such an insomniac, I couldn't even sleep. So like even with just that one problem, I took aim at the one problem, right? But then then that problem has a whole bunch of other things, which is where it's difficult for ADHD people because then you're like breaking this one big task into a bunch of smaller tasks. Right. So it was like, okay, I think you and I decided like, can I just get to sleep at the same time? And I was like, nope, can't do that. That's too hard. So then it became, what's something that's successful? And I think we decided like, could I turn on my salt lamp and spray some lavender mist every night? Doesn't matter when I go to sleep. Doesn't matter how much sleep I get. Could I just do that?
Yeah.
And I was like,
just like
okay,
trigger the
that
brain
seems
to
reasonable.
thinking this is when we sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I did that. And that took like a solid couple of months, I think, before it finally was like, oh, I could do that.
Habit.
So then I started getting into that habit of like, okay, I'm at least going in and doing this thing. Then it became like, okay, now can I think at that point was like, can I try to go to bed around the same time? But like, what does that look like? You know, like does that involve the routine? Like, do I do the dishes right beforehand? And then do I get some tea? And, you know, like all of these things that like require. So it's like, could I just do the dishes before I went to bed? That was the next one. Like, doesn't even have to be, we're still not worried about the time, right?
Yeah.
Can I just have tea? Like, there was just
little things,
small things.
Yeah.
And,
Incremental.
And it really is that incremental, which sucks.
Yeah.
But now I can like come 3 years later and say, oh my gosh, like I had restorative sleep last night. It wasn't enough. And like, there are other things I'm going to need to do, but like I felt good when I woke up, which I have not felt that way. And I don't know how long or if ever.
Right. Because you have been an insomniac since you were little. I mean, like you've had trouble with your sleep your whole life.
I had dark circles under my eyes as a kid. Like all of my pictures you'll see.
And I think like if your kid hasn't had good sleep, of course they're not going to be able to regulate themselves as much, right? None of us do, Michelle, right? Any of us who don't have good sleep.
Yeah, and I have sleep apnea. And I'm going to guess, because like Brian didn't tell me when we first got together that I snored. So I had no idea. And he's like, well, I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want to offend you. I'm like, but I need to know. Okay, but anyways, so beside the point. If like one of the parents, like dad was a massive snorer. So the likelihood of one of us having sleep apnea doubles. It's very, very high.
Yeah.
And had I had probably even just a CPAP as a kid, that probably might have started the help.
Interesting.
But even just working on the CPAP, Michelle, took me almost 6 months to get used to just wearing the CPAP and like finding the right mask and finding. Thank goodness, if you guys are in Tucson, Arizona, the university actually has a free program that allows you to like get different masks to help you find the right one. I mean, that was the only thing that helped me make sure I found the right mask, because I had like, I'm so highly sensitive that I had to have it.
It really does amaze me that you're able to do it at all. I thought there's no way. But I mean, once you feel like you've had some good sleep, then that probably, is worth it.
Well, actually, no, it's the shame of snoring.
You're just vain.
Well, I mean, I'm a little bit vain. Like I'm vain around certain people, but it's also like I feel bad because like I remember being kept up late into the night. So that was my
I could
trauma
never get
of
to
like
sleep.
just the snoring was so loud and it just echoed everywhere. And like I know that I've woken Brian up a few times, and so he would finally tell me, and I was like, oh right, I need to put the CPAP thing on. And so then I didn't want to do that to somebody else. So it's more being a good steward to my relationship. And then also like if I'm, I had to go, I took my neighbor's kids, we took them to Fresno. And so like during Fresno, it was like, okay, I don't want to be like that weird person who's snoring all day long. So like, it's fine. I'm like, as long as you don't mind that I'm going to be a cyborg, we can totally sleep in we can totally share a bed, room. And she's like, that's fine. But I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to show a 13-year-old that I'm snoring. That seems a little embarrassing.
You're so
because the 13-year-old, it really her opinion of me really matters, you guys.
I wonder, like, as we're thinking about all of this though, when we think about kids and you think about yourself at that age, this idea that you didn't have those basic needs really met, right? Because sleep would be a basic need. So,
and they didn't know that kids had sleep apnea. No one knew this.
Right. And I think even now I don't actually remember ever hearing that kids have sleep apnea till you just said it. So that's kind of, now I want to research it all, because I'm like, well, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But what's interesting to me as you're saying it is in your thinking, like as someone who had to parent you, like thinking about mom, and thinking like, okay, so she's trying to help with maybe some acting out behavior or something, right? Like some impulse control thing. So now would make sense, right? To me with you when you were little. Yep. So she's trying to work on that. But now it's like, okay, first I got to make sure that, you know, she's had proper food, she's had proper sleep, she's had all these things first or in conjunction. Then I've got to figure out how to stay positive and make sure I'm staying positive for the kid, because the kid struggles. You know, we know specifically, right, with ADHD, it can be really, really hard to stay positive about things.
So hard.
And she would always ask you, like, okay, before you tell me all the awful things, you have to tell me 2 good things or something, right? You know?
And I genuinely could not think of 2 good things.
Yeah.
Like, it was torture.
Sure.
She's like, tell me 3 good things that happened today. I'm like, I can't even tell you one because nothing good happened. Yeah.
And I don't know if that technique ultimately was helpful or not, but I think she was trying to do the, you know, keep the positivity
absolutely
going in the way that
she had the right instincts. And like what I would say to a parent, I would say to her now, if she was my friend, I would say, okay, well, it's the right instinct. And the thing is, the kid's not going to be able to know until you show them. So I would start off with, okay, you observe me every single day, Mom. What do you observe? What good things did you observe in me today? And model that for me and say, okay, so Megan, you don't, okay, that's fine. You don't know. I saw that you put your backpack in the right spot. I noticed that you were actually ready. Like it only took you 2 times to get your shoes on today instead of 3. Like, that's amazing. You know, like I saw like that you sat with us and had dinner. Oh my gosh. Like, so whatever. And that's the thing, is those small incremental things that take for freaking ever to actually heal are also the small freaking things that you should praise in the child.
Specific though.
Yeah. And like, but I think, cause it's like, it's telling me, okay, you saw me. And when you saw me, I wasn't screwing up. Like, I saw that your handwriting was absolutely, you know, was really like, it's coming together. I think the thing is, like, we think that, like, if we're going to praise somebody, and I don't know if this is true or not, this is my hypothesis. Yeah. But that, like, if we're going to give somebody praise, that it has to be some big monumental thing, or it has to be like impactful. Like, it has to mean something. And it could literally be like, I force myself, like with Brian, like when we're having an argument, I'm like, babe, do you realize that it only took us a few minutes to like to fix that? Then like I remind him of like the time frame, because it's so easy to forget. Like, we still had the argument. I mean, it's, you know, it's not the best, but the amount of time it took for us to like get over the argument was less. To work through it. Yeah, that's the word. Yeah. And like, that's the part. It's like, it could be something as simple as that. It's like, hey, do you realize it only took you 10 minutes today to get your clothes on? And they're like, why does that matter, Mom? Oh, that's stupid. Like, because it took you 15 minutes yesterday, or it took you 11 minutes yesterday. That means you're a minute faster. You're a rock star, you know, like, because then it's like, oh, cool, I'm a rock star. I got it done faster, you know. And even if you don't do it like every single night, it's fine. It's like, hey, do you realize that like over the last month, you have gotten your shoes on faster than you've ever gotten them on before? You know, like whatever it is, like, it's just these little small things.
And I think, you know, for me, as you're saying that, I would almost need to keep a list for myself, just to remember, like, okay, what have I given feedback? But I think specific feedback, I mean, we know this in the classroom, that when you're going to give feedback, give specific feedback, because that way people know what to do more of. Right. And so I think your instinct on that is completely right. It's like, okay, I want you to sit at the table more. And, you know, it's so funny because I realize, you know, those little thing of jewels or whatever beads, I bring them out at specific dinner parties and place people I know kind of need that stimulation, that self-stimming thing, so that they can sit there a little bit longer, because they want to sit there longer too. They want to be, and it's a socially acceptable thing that, you know, you put together. And I don't even remember what they're all made of, but we can definitely post what you made it out of, because it's worked with everybody, all age levels, except little, because you don't want them to eat things, but but they have this little thing of beads that they can play with, and it's not very loud, which is great. And it's just the right consistency, and you spent a lot of time developing it, so I thought it was great. But I bring that out still every time, and I've noticed,
and the teenagers, like, they roll their eyes like, I don't need this, because they know what we're doing. They're like, I don't need this, Rosie. I don't need this, Aunt Shell. And then they start using it anyways. It's like hilarious.
And adults use it that are at the table, because I have a lot, of friends that come that, just don't even realize that that's something that they need. Right.
Yeah.
And maybe haven't learned how their brain works yet, but I see it. And so I just put it there. And so sometimes you don't know, like, I also have all these little fidget things that I got from the Autism Society, because they came to the university in the math department to tell us, kind of like things that we should be paying attention to with our classrooms. And they gave us all these things, and I just put them in the middle of I have a dish with stickers and candies and things like that. And so I just put them in there, and it's amazing how many people pick up these little things to kind of play with. So the reason I'm saying it, though, is
as I'm literally like playing with these little, I'm stemming right now. Yeah.
Yeah. You're doing it right now. But I think one of the things that's interesting about it is how important as parents to be like giving that feedback and saying, like, I noticed that you were able to use that stemming thing to help you sit for a little longer today. And that is really amazing, because we really love, because why? Because we love having you there. Yeah. We like to hear your voice. We like to hear your thoughts. And I think if you can add the why, you're praising that, especially this generation, that they need a lot more whys than the rest of us did, because I think we just never got one. So we were like, oh, there's no whys. It's just because. But I think they do. And I think, if you can say why also, so important.
Yeah, it is really important, because then it's like, you also, as kids, like, I remember I always wanted to please, but I just, didn't always know how to.
Right.
And just being able to like notice and being able to articulate like what you're seeing, what differences you're seeing, and they could be slight, but I think it's so important to learn how to celebrate the small wins.
Absolutely. Celebrate those small wins with the kids, and with ourselves.
Yeah. Cause like, I literally do that. Like I will like, when I realize that I'm celebrating a win, I actually like do a physical motion to like release. I'm assuming I'm releasing dopamine or something. There's probably a scientific reason behind it. Yeah. Or like I do the hand. I do like the hand. I like give myself a high five. Like whatever it is, but something really dumb that like helps me to reinforce it in my brain, and then I want to do more of it. I want to like try it again.
Exactly. And I think the other thing is, you have shifted your own expectations around how long things are going to take for you to accomplish. And I think, so like when you're putting your plans together, you're really thinking about your brain now and what it needs. You're thinking about, you're trying to encourage positivity by the hand clap, or by the silly gesture, or by the things you're saying to yourself. And then there's also the shifting of like, I'm not beating myself up for the time frame of it. And I think that's the hard thing sometimes when you're parenting a child. It's also, I think, with self-parenting, parenting your inner child, there's this expectation of speed of things happening, and not allowing for the idea that this is going to take some time, just like therapy. Like, it's just going to take time, and there's going to be setbacks sometimes. And that doesn't mean it's broken or it's not going to get better. It means it just was a setback, right? And I always say, like, any routine with a kid, as soon as there's a break, it's winter break, whatever, there's a change, there's a holiday of some sort, something happens in your family that causes you to not have the routine you normally have during the week, whatever it is, just break the routine in any way, and it's going to set, especially kids with complex issues, back to what feels like zero sometimes.
I mean, that's what happened when we moved.
Yeah.
I was like so confident and so like, I was like, yeah, this is the best move I've ever done. And then as soon as we move, I'm like, I feel like I've taken I've taken many steps back, and I'm just trying to survive. And Like I think I'm like proof that it doesn't go away.
Right.
Like that's why it's so important to learn how to live with it and how to work through it, because it's not going to change.
Yeah.
So why would you beat yourself? Like, you would never beat up somebody in a wheelchair for not being able to go upstairs
Right.
for their entire life, right? You would just
Right.
would never do it.
Right.
So why do we beat up ourselves because we're, we don't have the same executive functioning as others to do what they do?
Right. And I think it's similar with, it's I don't want to say it's easier because it isn't, but I do think like with the gluten intolerance that I have, with the celiac component, I don't beat myself up for that as much as I would maybe for my dyslexia. Right. Like there's like a piece of it that's like, well, I can't help it because it's just the way my body is. It doesn't process gluten or whatever. Right. Or it attacks it, actually, is how I feel, is what it is. But with dyslexia, it's like, well, I can't help that either. But that isn't
but you also learned about your dyslexia at a young age, and you learned about gluten as an adult. So like, I wonder if like, do you think there might be like anything having to do with like all of the trauma that you had around the dyslexia? Like,
That's what I'm saying.
About gluten?
No, I'm absolutely saying that. It's like, but I also think there is more trauma given around things that are neurological.
Oh yeah,
because they can't be seen.
Yeah.
And versus like somebody who's got, type 1 diabetes, like you're going to see something very dramatic happen if they don't have their sugars right.
True.
Right? And it's not better. And I don't think, oh, I'm lucky because I have this or not. I'm just saying it's a different, it's different, right? There's different traumas with it. Like I can't get what I need.
Something bad does happen when my brain doesn't work. It's just that like that bad thing has been stigmatized as being naughty, as being out of control. And like, it's something having to do with, the way that we are, like, it's almost seems like it's a moral deficit, which is not the case. It's just a neurological deficit.
Yeah. And it's hard to explain sometimes at the beginning. And so if you haven't explained to people, this is what happens to me, which we always would do with you with your twitching that you had happen. Like I recommended, like, go tell everybody that you have this when you were in grad school. Let them know that you might end up on the floor, not able to move and, or be stuck. I said, because otherwise it's really, really scary for them. In addition to, when you fear things, then you also kind of demonize them oftentimes. And so, there's a lot of this of like having to educate people about who you are, and you have to have such radical acceptance within yourself to be able to say it and not feel shame around it. But it's really hard because it's at the same time you're feeling maybe not your best. You're having to also advocate for yourself, right? Which is just crappy.
It's just so tiring.
It is. But I do think like with parents, this idea of figuring out how are their brains supported? Do they have all their basic needs met? How do you find those small wins and keep that positivity?
Yeah.
And some of this, I think you just need coaching on. If you yourself can't think of like, well, I don't know how, there's nothing I can think of positive about my kid right now. I mean, that's real sometimes. It doesn't feel like easy to do this stuff. And especially when you're tired, especially if you have a complex brain and maybe there's just, you're struggling. Like you just moved, right? With all your stuff and all your kids' stuff, and everybody's a little out of sorts. This is a lot.
Or maybe that's like the time when you just say like, hey guys, like we know this is a tough time for all of us. Like we've just moved. We're going to be kind to ourselves. Like this is going to be a hard time for us. Like it's not going to be a typical, like that's the one thing I didn't say to myself before we moved was I was like, okay, our whole world's about to be upended. And it's okay that it's going to be hard. And it's like I used to do with Emma and Brian, like when Emma would come, Emma's my stepdaughter, when she would come and she would like want to stay up late, they want to watch shows. And I was always like, okay, guys, like we can totally do this, but like we have to know that like we're going to be tired tomorrow. So are we going to be okay to be nice to each other even though we're tired tomorrow? And, you know, it was always like, yes, okay, yeah, we can do. I'm like, right. And so if we're not nice to each other tomorrow, then do we know like maybe we should not do it again? Yeah. But okay, so we just know that we're going to be kind to each other because we're going to probably be a little grumpy. And then just set that expectation. I did not set that expectation for myself when I moved. I should have.
Yeah.
I really should have. I should have said it out loud to Brian and should have said, hey,
this is what's
going to be
on.
a real, like, this is going to be hard. Like we might have trouble. We might be having to go out and eat at, you know, get McDonald's or Wendy's again. And it's going to be challenging. And there's going to be a lot of times where we have to figure this stuff out. And I think that would have been probably a nicer, like, it's just, I know you can't like, you can't prep for all of that, but like,
if you
even
can.
once we got there, if I could have, could I have, okay, I don't know if this is I'm not sure how this works. Okay, whatever. But,
well, I think it's like you don't want to should all over yourself now.
I don't.
I think it's more just being curious about how might you have been able to make this easier for yourself.
Next time I'm feeling really in it.
Yeah.
Can I say to myself, okay, you're in it, your brain is in it, and it's okay. Like, this is just how it's going to be. It might be like this for a few days. That's fine.
Might be like this for a few weeks. Right? Because moving takes weeks and months to get settled. It's not, you know, they say it takes, first of all, 2 years to psychologically feel like you're home. So there's that.
Jeez. Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you're not in a new complete place, but it is a new complete place because it's a different house and it's a different environment and all of that. So I think you did those things this time just to give yourself maybe a little credit, and for me to give you a little positive feedback, is that you really made sure like you painted things that you wanted painted right away. You got curtains up right away. You got, you know, I mean, within weeks, not months. And, you know, you are slowly allowing yourself to figure out what's working and what isn't. And you did allow help to come in right away. Which you normally wouldn't have done. So I think there is so much progress you're making in this, but yes, you're in it. And I agree. Like, that is so important to, you know, just to be curious to say, what might it have been like if we had done this?
Yeah.
What might it have felt like if we had just said this to ourselves, as opposed to, oh, we should have.
I know.
Right?
I was totally shitting all over myself. Phyllis was totally shitting on me right then.
She was a little
bit.
So it's
real
like
time, people.
How might it be? What might it look like if we did just as lighter?
But I think like what you just did is the exact example that parents can use when they're talking to their kids. That you're saying, like, first of all, I think there's a part of it like where you're removed enough from me to be able to see that this is my issue and that it doesn't have anything to do with you. So I think the first challenge is like, is if you feel like, you know, if you're almost like enmeshed in some way, or like somehow like you're, you know, like, or if you're too tired or whatever it is, like where you're not able to see,
you might need to take a step back.
You might need to take a step. Yes, exactly. But like what you just did was you said, okay, well, let's just redefine this. And that is, you're right. Like you told me, it's like, yeah, you're right. Like I did paint and I did put up the curtains, and like, that's why I wanted to get these last curtains up, because I was like, I know I got to do it, but like it was really challenging, but I figured it out on my own. I didn't even contact you. No. I was like, I'm going to do it. And I moved this whole room around all on my own without Brian's help. I just did it. And that's a big win. And that's a big win.
That's not even a small win. Like, that's a big win. Woo woo.
Big win. Gotta put it in my ballot. I gotta put it in my body. Let's put it in the body.
Shaking it all out. I love it. Well, I am so appreciative of getting to talk about this with you, because I think it helps me frame too when I'm thinking about Josh, even now, right? I mean, he's 18, 19, but he's 19, but he is, we're still taking aim at things sometimes, you know, and helping to support, but doing it in a positive way if possible. But also this idea of shifting the expectation to kind of think about, okay, well, what would I expect from somebody who is 16 versus 19 might be a way to think about it sometimes too for me, because maybe there's some things I'm putting pressure on that we're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like that's just where he's at. There's nothing naughty about it.
That's true.
Just neurological.
Just neurological. I love it.
Well, I love you.
I love you too.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Spicy Brain Podcast, brought to you by Spicy Brain Studios. This week, we continued in The Essential Guide to Raising a Complex Kid with the chapter, Why Can't They Just? And what it means to take aim at behavior in a more intentional way. So if you take anything from this episode, pause for a second with your kid, get curious about what's actually going on in the brain, lead with connection, and then be willing to shift the expectation if it's just not landing. Next week, we're going to move into the shame and blame game and how we can start stepping out of that cycle. So make sure to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast app. And if you're enjoying the show, leaving us a review really helps the other NeuroSpicy folks find their way here too. But until then, here is to a great end of the week. And Michelle, let's remember to stay curious
and joyful
with a whole lot of radical acceptance. High kick. Yay!